So when I meant during the end of Plague of Shadows that the next time we saw a Yacht Club game would be one of the games they published, I literally meant it would be also the next game. I probably should have been more clear than that. Hello everyone and welcome to Let's Play Cyber Shadow. I've been wanting to get to this ever since the game released, just about, because when I saw this game in that Nintendo Direct that I think revealed that Yacht Club was punishing it, I was in love immediately. Well, clearly things have gone wrong. Shadow! It's great to see you within operational specification. Sorry to cut your recovery short, but our mission got a lot more urgent. Our master is in desperate need of your help. A lot has happened since the explosion. I'll fill you in on the details as we go. My name's L-gion, by the way. Aide to our master. So, we don't get much for this game's story up front. It is one of those where we get a lot of the details just as we progress. But the story isn't the main highlight here for me overall, I find. As we'll see when we get into the first level. You're weakened by essence deprivation. Your vital systems can't hold out for long, Shadow. You're on borrowed time. And to make matters worse, I'm pretty sure you're awakening other Dr. Projan. We should keep moving. There is a checkpoint. Stasis chamber offline. Checkpoints you go back to immediately when you die. Stasis chamber security status compromised. I mean, I guess L-gion did kind of come from the sky there, didn't he? Stasis chamber log file. Subject beta released. Last recorded status health critical. SS level 37%. Right down there, we got our first switch. You hit these to make things happen, namely opening doors. There's not always one per level, but you're going to see them pretty regularly throughout. And thus we entered the real Chapter 1, Geothermal Towers. That last thing was just a movement tutorial more than anything. So, if you couldn't tell just based off that small little tutorial section there, Cyber Shadow is by and large a send-up to games like Ninja Gaiden and the earlier Strider games. The main things we have to start are just running, jumping, and attacking, though. You're gonna see a lot of lanterns you can take out, though, just like Ninja Gaiden or the Messenger, for instance. They can drop two things. One is the yellow currency, which I forget what that's called outright. I think that is actually called Essence. We were not able to use that for a little bit. But there's also red drops. Red is for your health. There's also blue, which is for our SP there in the top left, but we're not really going to start getting any of that until early next stage, technically. Most enemies in the early part of the game do get taken out in one hit, but notably there is an achievement in the game for getting to the first mini-boss in the game about halfway through this stage without swinging your sword once. So if you want to go for that, go for it. Dr. Projan's holding our clan captive. He's siphoning their power. We barely reached you in time. Good thing they didn't get to you, too. One of our 4 companions is nearby, but fading quickly. Please, go meet him. I love this stage theme. This game's soundtrack in general is really good, but stage 1, its main melody is kind of a general motif throughout the game, and there's just something so good about that main motif. Admittedly, it is probably the song I remember the most from the game, but that's partially because it was the one that was in the original trailer for the game. And yeah, that trailer's kind of stuck in my head since. I don't know why. The timing of the music to certain visuals we'll see down the line in that trailer was just really good. Steam that I'm jumping over, by the way, does hurt you, and by and large, if something looks red in the game, you can attack it. There are some cases where that's not true, but that's mostly like due to tile set differences more than anything. Now, while this game visually appears to just be Ninja Gaiden, There is a little more to it than that. For instance, the moment we destroy this particular fan, we're going to see our first item pickup. This is an essence piece. Collect 3 of these, your health gets increased by 1. It's essentially a heart piece or a blue orb fragment from Devil May Cry. They are littered throughout the game's levels. I think you maxed out about 10 to 12 health. I actually can't remember the number offhand because I don't think I ever actually actively counted it. And we're gonna get similar items for SP and all that as we go through. But notably, there's very few levels in the game you can 100% grab all the items in on a first visit. Down the line, we will be able to revisit other levels, and you're gonna need to remember where you saw certain bits. It isn't quite like a Metroidvania in that regard, like the Messenger is. It is closer to just, I guess, Mega Man ZX Advents, actually, now that I think about it, where it's a lot of linear levels, but you can backtrack through them to get items you may have missed beforehand. With that said, time for the mini-boss that if you reach without using your sword once you get an achievement, this is Smasher. Smasher has 2 cannons on either side of it alongside the 2 wall cannons that will just fire at you. And every now and then the main body will slam down, leaving itself open to attack. Just make sure you're not below that, because I believe it is an instant kill. There is another achievement tied to this thing, by the way, for defeating this boss without destroying the wall turrets, which I just did. Feats and achievements, like in the Shovel Knight games, don't really do much outside of bragging rights, but if you want them, they're there. And for beating that boss, we get one of these, which is a full health upgrade by default. It also fully restores your health. You don't really get those from main bosses usually, it's mostly mini-bosses, but they're worth picking up at the same time. I believe you can ignore them, at the least. And before we head on to the right, you can see we got this weird little door here. Keep this in mind for several stages down the line. I am going to be, by and large, saving a lot of the item pickups that I missed for a cleanup period towards the end of the game. Mostly so I can use everything we'll eventually have to do so. So, I brought up this game is published by Yacht Club. This game is developed by Mechanical Head Studios, which is by and large just one person. Arne Hunziker, I think is how it's pronounced. It's a Finnish name. This game was first shown off, I believe, at PAX East 2019, and then it got the Nintendo Direct coverage, so it got a boost from that. And by and large, this game was developed over the course of, I believe, like a decade-ish, because apparently the developer started out modifying other games via hacking to just customize them a little bit. But eventually he started coding what would become Cyber Shadow over a period of about 4 years. And he originally wasn't going to have a publisher, he was just going to self-publish, but apparently he got approached by Yacht Club at some point when talking about the game's development, so he joined their development family, so to speak. The main enemy you really need to watch out for here in the geothermal tower by the end of it is either these giant robots here that take more shots than most other enemies in this point in the game, period, even later stages, as well as the rust flies, I think is what they're called. The little flying bug enemies, because they track on you surprisingly well. They're sort of like bats from Castlevania, but not quite. So just keep an eye on what's around you. You also may have noticed so far that checkpoints, by and large, give you full health recovery, and that is sort of true throughout the entire game, but not entirely at the same time, for reasons we'll get into, I believe, starting next chapter, or is that this chapter? I cannot remember at the moment. I recorded another game immediately after this, so my memory is partially wiped. Usual things are instant kill in this game, by the way: bottomless pit, spikes, crushing. Although, in general, it's the spikes that do most of that, because they're more common, I'd say, than bottomless pits tend to be in the long run, even though there are at least a couple of bottomless pits per stage. Be careful of these platforms going left and right across the screen, by the way, because while you can land on them, I believe the propellers at the bottom do damage to you if you touch them. Not that that's exactly common, I think these are only in this room and 1 or 2 others, period, one which we saw prior. With that said, we're now approaching the end of Stage 1. Well, clearly, there's a lot of information we're missing, but it's the same person as in our locket. I'm sure there's a good reason for that. You don't look so good, Shadow. Your condition is worsening. I hope you'll stabilize soon. We can't afford to lose you now. Our master needs you to be at full strength. Alright, let's move on then. Little chests like that, by the way, tend to contain random things. Oh, hi there. Shadow, as weak as ever. How did you even manage to survive? Well, it's no matter. Without your powers, you'll soon fade into the ethos. Or maybe all that awaits you is the eternal void. Alright, first boss here, that's the actual boss fight, is up Territory. He's pretty simple. Normally you get an achievement for beating this guy without getting behind him to do damage. He's mostly going to use some form of energy shurikens. Either he'll throw a couple that track onto you while jumping, he'll throw some big ones across the field in front of him, or he'll boost dash across the screen with a few in front of him on top of that. Keep your distance if you can while attacking him, roughly maybe a full sword's length just to avoid the ones he spawns directly in front of him when he does the dash. But take some good advantage of the time he has he's not attacking, because you can just drain his HP pretty quickly if you pay attention up there on the top right. Not a hard boss whatsoever. This time you were lucky. I never could tell what our master saw in you. But I'm sure Dr. Projan will find a use for what little essence you have left. So I'll let you live for now. Run along, little fox. Bye, I guess. Our clan has been captured. I'm too far gone. But there might be hope for the others. Maybe my power can help you, even if it's not much. And for finishing that stage, we get our first major power-up, our first sub-weapon, the Shuriken. You press up on the attack button, and you throw a small Shuriken forward, but it does take 1 SP at the top left there every single time. But with that, I'm going to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 2, we're going to enter chapter 2. Funny how that works, huh? See you guys then.